Senator, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, Senator, we've come a long way since the president first called for NATO members to pitch in more. We remember that table meeting between Jens Stoltenberg and the president, staring each other down. How's the president doing in his effort right now, and should he continue to take a more aggressive approach in asking Jens Stoltenberg to do more, to urge NATO members to do more?
Well, this is something I completely agree with President Trump on. NATO needs to pay their fair share. And in fact, we seem to be paying for the defense of most of these NATO countries. It's why I've opposed expanding NATO. We keep adding these tiny little countries that aren't really contributing much to NATO. In fact, my idea is if there's 28 countries in NATO, maybe we should pay 1/28 of the bill. Instead, we pay about 25% of NATO, and some of these tiny little countries pay almost nothing. So I think the president is right to ask for more. One of the things I saw recently in the last week that I thought was interesting, Angela Merkel, the head of Germany, she said she wouldn't pay 1 penny more in defense, nor would she cut any of the foreign aid she gives. So Germany's not willing to pay for their own defense, but they are interested in giving money away to other freeloading countries in the form of foreign aid or welfare. But she wasn't going to pay 1 more penny for her own defense. I think Germany needs some more pushing and some more prodding, and I think President Trump's the guy to do it.
Well, how much of speaking of that, it's the perfect segue into my next question. How much of an upper hand does the president have here? Is it realistic that other members will one day be paying 3% or even 4% or your idea 1/29th, I guess 1/28th of defense spending? I mean,
of all of NATO.
How realistic is this?
I think what you're going to find is that the president, by being bold and by being in their face, has gotten them to pay quite a bit more already. And it's not just NATO. I mean, he's been telling South Korea they need to pay the full expense of having our troops there to defend them. He's telling Japan the same thing. So, yes, I think he's already having an effect on getting them to pay more for their defense. The exact percentage of what they pay, I don't know if I know the right or wrong percentage they need to pay, but I do think that they need to pay more for their defense, and that the days of us always coddling and taking care of the rest of the world are over. I think we need to tell countries that they need to be more self-sufficient.
All right. On Thursday, the foreign ministers will be meeting at the State Department to talk about many issues, one of them being Afghanistan. You've been pushing for bringing an end to the longest war in U.S. history for quite some time now, and of course that being the war in Afghanistan. You've reached across the aisle to try to make that happen. Are we closer now today as you and I talk? Are we closer now than we have been in the past?
I think so, because for the first time we have a president who's willing to understand how to declare victory and how to bring our troops home. President Trump ran on bringing our troops home from the Middle East, and I think he will. I talk to him all the time, and he says that we're getting the heck out of Afghanistan. There is no military mission. We've lost our purpose there, and we're wasting a lot of the money. I mean, we spend $50 billion a year building stuff in Afghanistan, building them luxury hotels, gas stations, schools, roads. And we got a lot of crumbling infrastructure here at home. And I like when President Trump says that he's going to put America first. We're going to spend that money here making our country a better place and not just flushing it down the toilet by building stuff in Afghanistan that they blow up the next day. So, yeah, I think we are closer, mainly because we have a president for the first time who's open and interested in this. But also, I think people are weary and there's fatigue. And I talk to soldiers all the time who tell me enough's enough. They're willing to fight for their country, and that's why they volunteered. But they don't see what they're doing in Afghanistan. They're just becoming policemen. And I think our soldiers are ready to come home as well.
Well, and knowing when to declare victory is apparently harder than it seems, as you said there. But tell me, and last question, Senator, there are a few bipartisan measures. There are a few bipartisan efforts that are taking place. Of course, we always talk about infrastructure. You've reached across to Tom Udall to make this happen. Why, from a bipartisan nature here, why is this so difficult?
You know, I think sometimes there's more of it than you actually realize. A lot of those in the fake news media want to portray us as always at each other's throat. And on the internet, you have such angry people, wishing violence on each other. Really, most Republicans and Democrats in Washington actually get along okay. We talk to each other in a civil manner. Senator Udall, I like him personally. We have good conversations. We don't agree on a lot, but like on the ending the Afghan war, we agree on trying to have better protections for privacy so government's not looking on your cell phone or listening to your phone calls. He and I agree on that. So there are areas of agreement, and maybe more than people would realize, because some of the news networks, they sell controversy that we're all angry at each other, and we have disagreements, valid disagreements, but there isn't nearly as much anger. There's actually much more civility in Washington than you would imagine by hearing some of the news outlets.
And Senator, I know you got to go, but one more quick one while I have you here. Explain to our viewers why Democrats are wrong about the need to see the entire Mueller report. Today was that House Democrat deadline set by Jerry Nadler. Are the Democrats wrong about needing to see this entire report? And if so, why?
Well, I think transparency is good, and so the report coming forward is probably a good thing, but we need to hear the whole report. Part of the report is investigating were there any ties between Trump and Russia. We now know the conclusion there weren't. So we also need to know, how did this investigation get started? Did President Obama misuse his office? Did John Brennan or James Clapper or James Comey, did they use their power in this intelligence agencies to drum up an investigation that really maybe shouldn't have been started because there wasn't evidence? So I think if there's going to be a report, it needs to include the communications between Brennan, Clapper, Comey, and really President Obama. We need to know what they were talking about and why they decided to do this. It's extraordinary that we've investigated a president for 2 years. And when I talked to President Trump about a week ago, he said this shouldn't happen to any other president, Republican or Democrat, and that we should fix the system where the intelligence community doesn't have so much power to send spies into campaigns and to try to entrap people. And even after they did all that, the conclusion is President Trump did nothing wrong. So I'm for the report coming out, but we should hear the whole thing, and that includes communications between all of these people, many of them who have turned out to be very partisan, very much haters of President Trump. We should hear why they started this investigation, and we should find out whether they abused their office or misused their office in order to start this investigation with falsehoods.
All right, so you're for the whole report. Just make sure to include everything that led up to the report and all of the Obama-era DOJ officials involved. Okay. Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky, as always, we appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One American News on YouTube, and call your cable provider and kindly demand that One American News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.